Hi guys, Togo here with a new video, and this video I am showcasing my druid. I'm level 51, close to 52, actually did a whole level in AV. We are back to the AV grind because it is Wednesday, so we can do a bit of AV and get the rank that we do desire. So what do I need? Well, I mean, how do you see? I guess you could do like this. I think that's the easiest way to get somewhat of a estimate, if it just works. Whatever, you know. So I'll need probably around 250k honor, most likely, which is going to be possible anyways. Like, I don't need to honor grind anymore on my warrior. I also don't need to do it on my priest because I don't know if I'm going to keep playing my priest. It's going to be like a backup of a backup pretty much, which is fine. Unlucky. He has no mana! He has no mana! So, Druid is really fun. I actually really enjoy. And look at this, man. What a dumbass. Has no mana. Forgot that this trinket didn't do anything with roots. I'm not playing a warrior, but I'm enjoying my time as a druid. I still don't know, because this video is most likely going to be talking about what is going to be my decision going forward with druid. Like, am I going to play feral? Am I going to play balanced druid? Am I going to play resto druid? Am I going to play Moonglow? Am I going to play deep feral? Am I going to play heart of the wild? Those are all many specs in class, like specs, I would say, directions that I could take as a druid that I don't have. I would say the difficulty as a warrior. Like, basically as a warrior you have fury, you have fury prot, or you have fury arms, depending if you're DPS or you want to like off tank or tank. You have obviously your arms warrior like build, most likely for PvP, but you also can do fury PvP if you have enough attack power. But you don't have like a multitude of versions of your class that is vastly different. I think a feral druid plays vastly different than, let's say, a Boomkin. I would say Moonglow plays vastly different than just a deep resto druid build, because you don't have Swiftman, for example. So you have a lot of things that you have to decide, especially for PvP. I would say for PvE you have pretty much like 3 or 4 choices, depending on how you can take it. You can play like a regrowth spec, where you're playing around your crit. You can play deep resto. That's also like a regrowth spec, but you can also have regrowth spec with, like, actually the regrowth spec you could say it's a Moonglow spec. So you have like improved regrowth. You can like you only need like 3 of like points into that, and then the rest can be spent into a Nature's Grace, which is going to be very interesting because obviously your regrowth is going to be critting, so you will have a free Nature's Grace proc, and you have also your Moonglow, which is basically your mana cost being reduced, so you're going to be a bit more efficient than other class or other specs for druid. But I really enjoyed the fact that I have to make the choice, but I still don't actually know. So I have dual spec, still haven't spent any points into that. My feral druid is basically now just deep feral with like a leader of the pack. I'm going to get Omen of Clarity, but also got Furor, so I can also like power shift, right? So it's easier to do, and it's way more comfortable to power shift, because you will get the energy back, especially if you're like having a tick, like a timer, energy timer, energy tick timer, and also your wolf head helm, which is going to make it possible to be able to do like 4 class in like a power shift, for example. Or if you're doing a dungeon, you're going to most likely shred, so you can also like do some DPS with that. But it's also very comfortable to go bear form into charge, because you get 10 rage, so it's really cool. But am I going to play that like long term? I think PvP wise you really need a lot of gear to make like the Omen of Clarity build deep feral work. Because you actually need to deal like significant damage, which is very hard because feral druids don't scale very well with gear. It scales well, but it doesn't like it gets capped because of all the capacities that are tied to your claw damage, because this is like not your weapon damage. Obviously, if I go shift out, my weapon damage actually does more damage than my feral druid cat form, and my bear form literally does the same damage as my two-hander. So basically you have no scaling. Your weapon is like just a stat stick. It could be like the worst weapon in the world. If it has the stats, it is actually good. So yeah, I think that's the possibility behind it. You actually need gear for it to be significantly good in PvP. In PvE, it's a bit different because obviously you have your consumes, you have your wall buffs, you have your MCPs, which will help infinitely more towards your damage than just your gear. Your gear is going to be important, but it's not going to be the thing that is going to make or break your damage. So I think for PvP you need like a lot of stamina, you need a lot of mana, because again you will have to shapeshift anyways, but you also need somewhat enough strength and agility to be able to deal that significant damage that you will need if you want to end 1v1s pretty clean. Now the truth is, it's not the best 1v1 spec. Personally, I think the best 1v1 spec is the Moonglow spec. So basically, you're going into Insect Swarm, obviously. You will go to Nature Swiftness. You can take like any other talent. Normally, you don't need to go that deep. You just get Nature Swiftness. And then you go to like 30 points into Balance Druid. We call it Moonglow because basically Moonglow is the most important talent. But you could also get Moon Fury if you want to. The issue is you will have like a bit of difficulties to like be efficient at dealing damage anyways, but still Moon Fury is a very good talent. Gets you 10% more damage on Moonfire, Wrath, and Starfire. Unfortunately, Insect Swarm has no scaling, so basically you have just your spell damage, but it is like a little dot of 12 seconds, so it doesn't scale very well, while Moonfire as well, 12 seconds unfortunately. But yeah, I think you can basically win with a pounce into rip into rake. Like if you are the offense guy, right? If you're like attacking someone, you're pouncing rip and rake. Rake and rip, and then you're going to Moonfire, Insect Swarm, Nature's Grasp on yourself. You're going to most likely also Entangling Root if they are like a melee and they're not hitting you, then you're going to do that. You can literally like also Nature Swiftness into Entangling Root if you feel like you have like such an advantage that you can actually spend that instead of a heal. And then you can just spam Rafts, for example, and you can just run away with like Tribal form. You don't even actually need to go Feral form or Dire Bear form anymore, especially versus a Warrior or Rogue. If they're not catching you, it is what it is. If you're facing a Rogue, just put like the Abolish Poison on advance, because they are most likely going to blind you, because they're going to panic, and this is going to dispel the blind, because blind is a poison. That's why I think Druid auto wins versus Rogues, because you can just basically put your dots, go into bear form, put abolish poison just like in advance enough to make them hesitate about their blind, and then obviously you can stay bear form, and if you are caught in bear form, you're not going to die. Obviously the issue is whenever you're going to have to abolish poison and then go back to bear form, that little time is enough to kidney shot you and maybe kill you in that window. So that's why you have to know when to abolish poison. That's the difficulty between Druid versus Rogue matchup. But in general, if you put all your dots onto the enemy, like Moonfire, Insect Swarm, maybe a Rake if you have the time, maybe a Rip if you have the time, if you're like the offensive guy, if you are the one that is actually going onto the Rogue, you can basically do that, and you put like a Fairy Fire, and boom, they cannot vanish, like they cannot do anything versus you pretty much. And then you put the Abolish Poison, stay at range. If they get close, bear form, and boom, voila, you're kind of winning. Basically because you are like a very tanky class, especially if you have like the stamina for it, and you are building not full spell power because you are smart. You're going to build a bit of intellect, you're going to build a bit of stamina. Actually, I lost a lot of stamina. You're going to have a bit of armor on your character because you're not going to be full clothy, because you don't really care too much about caster gear. You want caster gear, but you don't go out of your way to have like negative armor. That's not going to happen, and that is enough to win duels. And I think personally what I like about like Moonglow is that you basically can win versus any class except maybe Priest, where basically I would just run away from a Priest. I don't want to engage in Priest except if I'm like team fighting. But like in a 1v1, I see a priest, I just take the road. I don't care because they have this spell first and foremost, and they have obviously their shield. They have enough damage to be annoying just to survive, and they have obviously the luxury of being a priest, so they're very efficient with their cast times and very efficient with their costs in general. So that's the only matchup where I can say, look, Druid, it's really bad. I would say Warlock to a certain extent is also a bad experience for Druid. So I already talked about it on my tier list, obviously. But like in 2019, I know that versus Warlock, it's very hard to actually win because they are either playing with the right pet, first and foremost. They're playing the right spec. So if they have Soul Link, it's very tough to just like do a bit of damage versus them. And they also can drain life. And you don't have an interrupt except like Bear Charge, which is like, again, a very predictable interrupt. You need to literally do this and then do Bear Charge, which is very hard. You have obviously your stun. You can have bombs if you're engineering. For now, I have no professions, so I will have a profession. I'm looking into what I'm going to do. The truth is, I'm also thinking about TBC. I'm not going to do a profession to then like delete that profession out of my like character just because I have TBC. I will have to re-level a profession. I don't want to do that. But the truth is, if I'm going to raid as a Boomkin, so now I'm like going to transition into the Boomkins. If I'm going to raid as a Boomkin, I actually need tailoring. I remember in 2019, I went tailoring because I want the hit set. So you had like the Bloodvine set. I don't know if I can show you with loot, with Atlas loot. I think I can. I think I can if I go to tailoring. I go to this is like not what I wanted. I think it is. I cannot show you like this. I think I hear the Bloodvine set. So this Bloodvine set gives insane amount of hits. So every single piece gives you a lot of hit. I think it's 6 hits in total. You have also crit and you have spell damage and intellect. The issue is it is like not really a PvP set at all. Like you are not going to be able to PvP effectively with it. You're going to do that if you want to. And excuse me, it's not 6%, I think it's 4% hit. Excuse me, I was wrong. But obviously that will help immensely if you want to DPS, because you will need the hit. The only thing that really makes Druid not that great is the mana of a Druid, like a balanced Druid, because it's very limited. You kind of have to down rank if you really want to be able to have longer fights and be able to do those longer fights. And I'm thinking about AQ, I'm thinking about BWL, I'm thinking about Nax. In MC, the fights are like 20 seconds long, so you're not going to get at 20 seconds. That's not the issue. You're going to get on Thrash, but that is what it is. Your duty is basically to fairy fire anyways. You can have an MP5 like build for that. So you could just do the raid most efficiently by like debuffing the enemies, and do sometimes a Moonfire, Insect Swarm. Like Moonfire, basically you're not going to Insect Swarm if you're Moonkin, because it will take you out of the form. So you're just going to Moonfire to maybe spam Wrath or spam Starfire depending on the fight and how long the fight is. There is like a sim online. I remember it was from Movie, a YouTuber. And it kind of shows that Wrath is actually a good spell to spam, but it is not taking into account the fact that you have a debuff from Warlocks that helps arcane damage. So again, it's not ideal, but it is what it is. But yeah, Moonkin. So I will have to go tailoring, and I need to decide right now if I want to do so, because if I wait for phase 4, it will be skyrocketing the prices, because everyone is going to do that anyways. I'm thinking about engineering regardless, because I think it's interesting for PvP in TBC as well. It's going to be interesting in Vanilla as well. Right now I'm playing PvP, so I want to be able to engineer. So that's very interesting. I'm also thinking about Blacksmith. Blacksmith is also interesting for now, especially for the trinkets that you have to make yourself. But you can actually make it yourself and then like delete Blacksmith. That's a possibility. I could go tailoring, so I have drums in TBC, which is always going to be quite good, and it will be a value anyways. I remember that. I could also go like jewelry. I think it's jewelry, right? So I could do that with gems and like put my and have like a good trinket out of it. That's also a possibility. I could also go enchanting, so I could also like enchant my own rings. I don't know. It's a very difficult part for TBC. But like if I'm thinking about classic right now, there's like just only two possibilities. Either I go for tailoring, which will make me more likely to go Moonkin if I want to. It's not like very accepted, but you have guilds that are actually looking at Boomkins and they're saying, I mean, Resto Druids are good healers, but it's not like exceptional healers, so they could just add more DPS to the raid by putting a Moonkin instead of having like a Resto Druid. That's a possibility. You don't need to run 8 healers every single time. You can have a healer like less for all the fights, and only for the harder fights you turn the Moonkin into Resto Druid, which is possible with dual spec, thank god. So that's a good thing. So I'm thinking about that. Now, the truth is, the gearing is really hard for both Feral and Boomkin. That's why, like, I'm thinking, like, do I really want to suffer to, like, myself into those raids? Which is possible. Like, again, I'm going to enjoy my time while I'm doing that. But obviously, it's not, like, really efficient gearing. Like, you're going to keep a lot of the gear, like, all the time. Like, I can show you Abyss, right? Let's show you Abyss list. Can I show you Abyss here? If I can show you. There was like a Abyss somewhere from me. If I can. Is it behind here? No, trinket menu. I think I have like a add-on Abyss tracker. Abyss tracker. Yes. Okay, I have it here. So you have the Abyss tracker. It's not like the most accurate list. I'm not gonna lie. Like it is pretty outdated. But for example, for a Feral Druid cat form, phase 2, this is your Abyss, and all of these pieces are like outside of dungeons, outside of raids, pretty much. Like you have nothing in raids that will add you more DPS, which is kind of sad. This obviously AV1 is better, so. Like I said, it's not very accurate. So, but like for example, PvP gearing is not available in the Beast Tracker. But like phase 3, the only thing that you get added, and those are like pieces that are very contested and you most likely are not going to get, which is Edge Core leather gloves. Which, why would you take it? It's +5 daggers. Most people are going to need it, and you also have Onyxia Tooth, which is quite easy to get if you are making your own groups. And you have Risk Guards of Stability, which is actually a very contested item as well. But at least this is a leather, which is a very good item for you. And Strength Stamina. So again, I think that's a possibility as well. And then you have, last but not least, Ban of Akuria, where literally everyone and their mother are SRing it or needing it. So it's always going to be quite hard. But then if I swap to phase 4, which is like... Phase 4 is so group, so they are taking into account that you did BWL, and you got gear from BWL, okay? So phase 4, literally, a lot of the things are still the same. First and foremost, I still think, like, why would you have Devil Sword leggings if you're not going for the set? So that it's not accurate, but it kind of shows the items that you can get from raids, right? Like Cloak of Draconic Might, Malfurious Blessed Bulwark. Those are like good items, but like they are not on the same level as the items that, let's say, warriors and rogues can get. Here, Boots of the Shadow Flame, like incredible chance to hit, 2%, but also attack power, which is also quite good. You have Taught Dragonhide Belt, again, like those are like pieces that are very good, but it's attack power. I wish it was like agility or strength instead, equivalent, which would give you a lot more stats for it. Of course, the Talisman of Connivery is like still like this, obviously for the agility and the chance to hit. I think the Onyxia Tooth is pendant is not that bad, but whatever. And then you have obviously your Draconic Maul, which is also a good item. So I think that I'm still thinking about like the spec I'm going to play. And I lean towards, I would say, the caster or healing gear, because I think it's more satisfying to gear up. I kind of need a healer anyways. I am okay flag carrying as well, and flag carrying you kind of need a bit of spell power, a bit of healing power, and I would say also a lot of stamina and gear, which is basically tier 1 or tier 2 from druids are like pretty good. And if I go for rank 13 as a druid, which I should, to be fair, I will get the rank 13 gear, which is going to be quite good for my feral set, but also for my flag carrying set in general, and I also am going to enjoy that time. So basically, to resume everything, because I feel like I'm talking a lot without giving you any answers, I'm leaning towards Balance Druid or Restoration Druid because it's easier to gear. You have like 2 pieces of gear that you can basically wear for both activities, if you're healing or if you're DPSing. Feral Druid is quite nice, but I know from a fact that it doesn't scale well. So the strongest point of Feral Druid is actually right now, where you have your MCPs, you have your lion, your wolf head's helm, you have the hit that you need, you have the power shifting. That's pretty much what you have, and the damage is going to be higher every single phase because of the attack power being high, but most of the abilities are just scaling with like pure weapon damage, and weapon damage is not scaling for Feral Druids. It's like only scaling with AP, but you know that if I take, like, for example, this out, it's not going to take a lot of AP out. It's not going to take a lot of the damage out here. Like you see, 103, if I put like one item, it's going to be 104 top damage. If I take all my items out, let's do the exercise if you want to. If we take every single item out, every single item, so I can show you what I mean, because I think it's the best way to show you how it scales, right? Right now, I am pretty naked. Like, this is naked. I'm not going to take out the rings because who cares? I can do that. Wait, you know what? I'm gonna do that. So I have no items. It gives me 86 top damage cat form swing. If I go bear form, it's 195. If I go put all my items back up, so I didn't take this one because it has no agility, no power, no attack power. If I take everything out, back in, it is 218 damage. I basically just win 20 damage out of these like items. Now obviously this is not really like bear form, not really tanking gear because I lack the strength obviously. But like in cat form it's 104, so I do win only 20 top damage weapon swing. So basically my shred, my claw, my what else? My ravage, those are all scaling with weapon damage. So the damage is not going to be vastly different if I have, like, let's say 1000 AP or if I have 1200 AP. You can expect it to be higher, obviously, but it's not going to be crazy higher because here again I'm going to do it the exercise again. I have 630 AP, right? If I take everything out again, so you can see I take everything out again. I think it's the easiest way to show you what I mean. So you can do calculations as well. Oops, excuse me. You can do your calculations as well because that will be helpful. Obviously, the gear is way different in AQ because you have like weapons that gives you like feral attack power. But I put out every single gear piece. I have 375 attack power, and that's like, again, I'm buffed with Mark of the Wild, but who cares? I have 375 attack power. It is literally close to losing 300 AP, and I got 20 damage less. So if for the same exercise, if you're doing 300 AP times 3, it is like 900 AP. If you're doing the 20 damage that you lost times 3 as well, because then it is correlating, 20 damage times 3, it's only like 60 damage increase that you would get from your weapon swing. It's not going to be that impactful compared to, let's say, a warrior that has Bloodthirst. That's why at endgame in Nextramas, you could literally PvP as a Fury Warrior because your Bloodthirst would do more damage than a Mortal Strike, no matter what weapon. Because the weapon doesn't scale very well, and the only thing that scales very well as a Feral Druid is a bad combo spender, which is Ferocious Bite, because it converts every single energy point you have. So basically it's a good finisher, but you're going to then wait for your energy to go back up, or you have to power shift. it's not going to do enough damage to justify you losing all the energy that you could spend on double shred, for example. So it's a good ability, and it gets only better at like a higher level. Again, if you get like the rank 5, I do believe, from like the book is a rank 5. If you get it, it does more damage for you, obviously, but it's not scaling very well. So that's the issue I have with Feral Druid. So I will most likely play Restoration Druid, Balance Druid. I will try my hands at Feral Druid once I have the ranking gear. That could be very interesting as well. I think all-star gear is very interesting for Druids. I might talk a bit more about the gearing and how I want and what gear I want. So I will be doing on 60 upgrades, why not? But right now, this is the plan going forward. So I'm going to go play Resto Druid, I'm going to play Rest Balance Druid, and I might just like test a bit of Feral Druid here and there. I'm still leveling as a Feral Druid because I'm not like a masochist. I think it's better to like hit mobs in cat form, even though it does less damage than Starfire. I don't need to drink. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.